I see the burden you carry, my friend, that weight upon your shoulders, not the trivial anxieties of the herd scrambling for comfort and approval, but something far more dangerous, far more magnificent, the crushing pressure of potential. You have been marked, chosen, and in this choosing you have become the living battleground where heaven and hell wage their most silent, most brutal war. But let us shatter the first illusion immediately. This pressure you feel, this cosmic tension that makes your bones ache and your nights endless, it is not punishment, it is recognition. Listen carefully, for what I'm about to tell you will either liberate you or terrify you, depending on how much truth your spirit can digest right now. When God laughs with pure joy, not the polite chuckle of contentment, but the roaring, world-shaking laughter of profound delight, it is because something impossible has occurred, something that defies the calculus of both heaven and hell. You, chosen one, you made the eternal laugh. Not through your strength alone, but through something far rarer. Your refusal to become what your wounds demanded you become. The devil, that ancient calculator of human patterns, that genealogist of weakness. He studied you with the cold precision of a surgeon examining a diseased organ. He traced the lines of your trauma, mapped the topography of your pain, catalogued every betrayal, every disappointment, every moment where you stood alone in rooms full of people who could not see you. Based on the data, based on what breaks normal people, he predicted your collapse with absolute certainty. He expected the pattern. Trauma leads to bitterness, bitterness to rage, rage to self-destruction. Clean, mathematical, inevitable. But you disrupted the equation. And in that disruption, you became dangerous in a way the darkness could never anticipate. For those with ears to hear, I have left the map to exit the labyrinth in the pinned comment in my trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life. But know this, the map is useless if the legs refuse to walk. The first step represents not movement outward, but descent inward, into the depths where you confront not your enemies, but your own will to truth. This is not self-help pablum for the weak. This is the hammer with which you will shatter the false idols that still whisper in your mind. Take it if you dare. Now, let us continue our diagnosis of what makes you fundamentally different from those who drowned in lesser storms. The physiology of the chosen. Why your body knew before your mind. You felt it in your bones first, didn't you? That strange heaviness that no amount of sleep could cure. That tension in your chest that no doctor could diagnose. That exhaustion that seemed to emanate not from your muscles but from some deeper source, what the ancients called the soul. This is what the herd never understands. The body is not merely a machine. It is an instrument of perception. Your nervous system was registering a spiritual reality before your conscious mind could articulate it. When you carried weight that would have crushed 10 ordinary people, your body was performing a kind of alchemical transformation. The pressure wasn't attacking you, it was forging you. Think of the diamond. It begins as common carbon, unremarkable, overlooked. Only through immense pressure, through being crushed in the darkness of the earth, does it become something that catches light in ways mere coal never could. Your nervous system was screaming not because you were breaking, but because you were crystallizing. The herd interprets all pain as pathology, all suffering as sickness to be medicated away. They run to their therapies, their pills, their endless cycles of validation seeking, trying to numb what they should be interpreting. But you sat with it. You didn't understand it perhaps, but you didn't flee from it either. That distinction is everything. The strong do not avoid suffering. They interrogate it. They ask, what is this teaching me? What inferior parts of myself must die for something greater to be born? Your isolation wasn't abandonment, it was altitude. The air grows thin at the peaks, and lungs accustomed to the thick, comfortable atmosphere of the valley cannot breathe here. When you began to rise, not through arrogance, but through necessity, through the internal demand for truth over comfort, the atmosphere changed. Relationships that once seemed solid became suffocating. Conversations that once engaged you became intolerable in their superficiality. You thought something was wrong with you. The herd certainly told you so, didn't they? "You've changed," they said, with that particular tone of accusation. "You're not yourself anymore." But here is the secret they will never grasp. You were becoming more yourself. The self they knew was the compromised version, the dimmed-down edition that made itself small enough to fit in rooms built for mediocrity. Your body rejected that falseness, the way a healthy organism rejects poison. The nausea you felt in certain environments wasn't weakness, it was diagnostic precision. Your spirit was developing an immune system, learning to identify and expel what threatened your essence. This is what Nietzsche meant by the great health, not the absence of suffering, but the capacity to transform suffering into strength, poison into medicine. Your body was ahead of your mind, registering the toxicity of environments your conscious self still wanted to believe were safe. The fatigue wasn't depression in the clinical sense. It was your organism's rebellion against continuing to invest energy in situations, relationships, and identities that violated your deepest truth. And here is where the laughter of God enters. He watched you trust this physical wisdom even when you didn't understand it. When every voice around you, family, society, even your own anxious thoughts, told you to snap out of it, to try harder, to be grateful for what you have, you couldn't. Not because you were weak, but because something deeper wouldn't let you. That refusal, that sacred inability to continue the charade, that was your will to power speaking through your flesh, through your exhausted nerves, through your sleepless nights. You were being dismantled, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you without the compromises. The devil expected you to interpret this bodily rebellion as confirmation of your worthlessness. He planted that thought 1,000 times. If you were truly chosen, you wouldn't struggle like this. Look at how tired you are. Look at how you can't even pretend anymore. You're failing. But you didn't believe it fully, did you? Some stubborn core in you whispered, no. This exhaustion is honest. This inability to perform is integrity. I would rather be tired while being true than energized while being false. That moment, that barely conscious choice to honor your body's revolt rather than shame it, that's when God leaned forward. That's when the angels paused in their tasks. Because in a world drowning in performance, in artificial energy, in the manic pretense of positive vibes, masking existential despair, you chose authenticity even though it looked like weakness. You chose to be genuinely exhausted rather than falsely enthusiastic. And paradoxically, that was strength. Your physiology was your prophet. It spoke the truth your mind was still too afraid to fully acknowledge. And in trusting it, in allowing yourself to slow down, to withdraw, to become quiet even when the world demanded your noise, you aligned yourself with a deeper rhythm. Not the frenetic pace of the marketplace, not the anxious hustle of those trying to prove their worth, but the ancient, steady pulse of something eternal within you. This alignment is what caught heaven's attention and hell's confusion. Now your body is changing again, isn't it? The heaviness is lifting, but not because circumstances have improved dramatically. It's lifting because you've stopped fighting the very process that was saving you. The tension in your chest eases not when you finally achieve external validation, but when you internally validate your own journey. Your sleep deepens, not because your problems disappeared, but because you've stopped betraying yourself to solve them. This is the great health emerging, the body and spirit in conspiracy, working together toward your becoming, the genealogy of your persecution. Why the herd needed you to fall. Let us now turn the cold eye of genealogical analysis upon those who opposed you, who misunderstood you, who seemed inexplicably committed to your diminishment. The herd looks at cruelty and asks, Why are people mean? This is the question of children. The mature question, the Nietzschean question is, what does their cruelty reveal about their own spiritual poverty? Your family, let us speak plainly about them. They were not evil in the cartoon sense. They did not wake each morning plotting your destruction. Their violence was far more insidious because it wore the mask of concern. We're worried about you. You're throwing your life away. Why can't you just be normal? These phrases, delivered with furrowed brows and seemingly genuine anxiety, were not love. They were the herd's immune response to the presence of something foreign, something that threatened their carefully constructed world of comfortable lies. Here is what you must understand about slave morality. It cannot tolerate the presence of master morality because that presence is an accusation. Your very existence, your refusal to settle, your inability to celebrate mediocrity, your stubborn insistence on truth even when it isolated you, was a mirror held up to their own compromises. They looked at you and saw, reflected back, all the dreams they abandoned, all the truths they swallowed, all the times they chose comfort over courage. And that reflection was unbearable. So they tried to break that mirror, not consciously perhaps. They genuinely believed they were helping you, guiding you, bringing you back to reality. But listen, when someone tries to bring you back to reality, ask yourself, whose reality? The reality of those who wake up each day tolerating lives they secretly despise. The reality of those who've convinced themselves that numbness is maturity and resignation is wisdom. That is not reality, that is consensus hallucination, and they needed you to share their hallucination to validate it. Your difference, your inability to pretend, your constitutional allergy to falseness was interpreted as deficiency. This is the signature move of slave morality. It takes its own weakness and rebrands it as virtue, then condemns strength as vice. They called their fear prudence. They called their mediocrity balance. They called their terror of judgment humility. And when you wouldn't adopt their vocabulary, when you kept reaching for something higher, even though you couldn't name it yet, they diagnosed you as sick. But sickness, chosen one, must be diagnosed by health. And the herd is not healthy. The herd is a collective agreement to call illness wellness, so that no one has to face the terrifying work of actual healing. They medicate pain they should be interpreting. They therapize away truths they should be confronting. They build elaborate philosophical structures to justify why their cages are actually freedom. And when you, with your raw, unmedicated, untherapized truth, stumbled into their midst, you became the greatest threat imaginable, living proof that their compromises were choices, not necessities. This is why the persecution was so relentless. This is why even your smallest victories were minimized or reinterpreted as luck, as privilege, as anything except the fruit of your own depth. They needed you to fail because your success while being different, while refusing to play by their rules, while maintaining your integrity, would invalidate the entire story they've told themselves about why they had to surrender theirs. The narcissistic family member who constantly undermined you, their cruelty was the revenge of the weak against the strong. They saw in you a vitality they long ago extinguished in themselves, and rather than face that death, they tried to kill it in you too. Your silence in the face of their provocations, that infuriated them most of all. They wanted you to fight back, to descend to their level, to prove that you were just as petty, just as small. But you wouldn't. Not because you were passive, but because something in you recognized that engaging with them was a form of self-betrayal. The friends who slowly disappeared when your life stopped being entertaining. They were never friends. They were spectators. And when the show they wanted, your breakdown, your collapse, your fulfillment of their prophecy didn't happen, they lost interest and moved on to other dramas. Their presence in your life was conditional on your performance of a role that diminished you. When you stopped performing, they left. This wasn't abandonment, it was clarity. The romantic partners or potential partners who seemed drawn to you, but ultimately chose someone safer. They sensed the demand your presence made. To be with you required them to grow, to face themselves, to stop hiding behind comfortable lies. The person they chose instead allowed them to remain small. Do not resent them for this. Pity them. They chose the prison they know over the freedom that terrifies them. You were too much truth for souls committed to illusion. The societal structures, the job that didn't materialize, the opportunity that went to someone less qualified, the recognition that went to the mediocre while you labored in obscurity. This is the herd protecting itself. Systems built by and for the mediocre will always resist excellence that doesn't conform. They don't reject you because you lack value. They reject you because your value threatens the entire edifice of meritocracy they've constructed to justify their positions. True excellence is dangerous to false hierarchies, but here is where the laughter begins. God, watching all this, watched you not become bitter. He watched you observe these mechanisms with growing clarity rather than growing rage. The devil expected resentment to poison you, to turn you into what they accused you of being, angry, difficult, impossible. But instead, you became discerning. You learned to see through the masks, to understand the mechanics of resentment, to recognize slave morality's fingerprints. And with that understanding came not hatred, but a kind of amused detachment. You began to see them almost anthropologically. Ah, yes, this is what wounded people do. This is how those who've betrayed themselves behave. This is the dance of the unconscious. And that shift from personal hurt to philosophical understanding, that was your graduation from victim to observer. And observers cannot be controlled by the very systems they're studying. You became dangerous not through aggression, but through comprehension. The herd hates nothing more than being understood, to be truly seen, to have their mechanisms exposed. Their motivations laid bare is the death of their power over you. When you stopped needing them to validate you, when you stopped expecting them to understand you, when you released them from the role of family or friend or society and simply saw them as what they are, that's when they lost all leverage. That's when the persecution intensified briefly, then suddenly stopped. Because you can only persecute someone who still cares about your opinion. God laughed because he watched you discover what he knew all along, that your isolation wasn't rejection from the tribe, but protection from infection. Every door that closed in your face was his hand steering you away from environments that would have normalized you, domesticated you, turned your lion into a lamb. The pain of exclusion was the pain of the narrow gate. Uncomfortable, yes, but the only path to where you're going. The weapons you forged in the fire, how suffering became your arsenal. Now we arrive at the practical, the tactical. But make no mistake, chosen one, these are not mere tips or life hacks of the kind peddled by the motivational frauds who have never suffered a day beyond a delayed flight. These are weapons, and weapons are only understood by those who have known combat. The first weapon, strategic solitude. You learned this one without realizing it, during that dark season when invitations stopped coming, when your phone went quiet. When you sat alone night after night wondering what was wrong with you, you were being taught the most crucial skill, how to be alone without being lonely. The herd cannot conceive of this. Their aloneness is always loneliness because they have no internal life worth inhabiting. They are hollow, and hollowness echoes with emptiness when no external noise fills it. But you discovered something different during those endless solitary hours. You discovered that beneath the noise of the world, beneath even your own anxious thoughts, there was a depth. A stillness not empty, but full. A silence not dead, but pregnant with possibility. You learn to sit in that silence without running from it, and that ability to be alone without fragmenting, to sit with yourself without distraction or numbing, is power the herd will never possess. Strategic solitude is not withdrawal from life. It is the foundation of life. It is where you hear the voice that gets drowned out in the marketplace, your own, not your wounded voice, not your fearful voice, not your conditioned voice, echoing what others planted in you, but the voice underneath all that. The voice that speaks only truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable, even when that truth demands action you're not sure you're ready for. Learn to guard this solitude jealously now. You have tasted its power. Do not let the world, even in its newfound respect for you, even in its attempts to reconnect, dilute this capacity. Schedule solitude the way others schedule meetings. Defend it against encroachment, because in that solitude is where you will continue to receive the downloads, the insights, the marching orders that no guru, no book, no external authority can provide. The herd seeks teachers everywhere except within. You have learned to consult the oracle that lives in your own depths, the second weapon, the mental diet. Oh, how the herd consumes. They devour information, entertainment, opinions, outrage, gossip, news, content, endless content. They mistake this consumption for learning, for staying informed, for personal growth. But what they're really doing is crowding out the signal with noise. They're ensuring they never have to hear the still, small voice that might ask them uncomfortable questions about how they're living. You learned through necessity to become selective. When you were at your lowest, you didn't have energy to waste on garbage. You couldn't afford the spiritual calories that came from scrolling through other people's curated lies on social media. You couldn't stomach the news cycle's weaponized anxiety. You couldn't tolerate empty conversations that went nowhere, not because you were antisocial, but because you were discerning. Your diminished capacity forced you to ask, is this nourishing me or depleting me? And most of what the world offers is depletion masquerading as nourishment. Continue this practice with even greater rigor now. Just because your energy is returning doesn't mean you should revert to indiscriminate consumption. Ask of everything that requests your attention. Does this make me stronger or weaker? Does this clarify my vision or blur it? Does this elevate my frequency or drag me back into the swamp? Most people, including people you love, including people who mean well, are trying to drag you back into the swamp because that's where they are, and they want company. Curate your inputs like a master gardener curates a garden. A gardener doesn't let every seed take root. They select, they prune, they remove what doesn't serve the larger design. Your mind is a garden now, chosen one. You've cleared out so much invasive growth. Don't let it creep back in through carelessness or misplaced guilt about staying connected. The third weapon, the sacred no. This is the weapon of kings, and it is the weapon the herd fears most because it reminds them of their own inability to wield it. When you were in the depths, you began saying no. Sometimes because you lacked energy for yes, sometimes because you finally saw clearly what deserved rejection. Each no felt like a small death. The guilt was enormous. Who am I to refuse? Who am I to set boundaries? Who am I to disappoint others? But here is the truth. Every no to what diminishes you is a yes to what elevates you. Every boundary you set is sacred ground you're protecting. The herd will test these boundaries constantly. They will deploy guilt, manipulation, accusation. You've changed. You're cold now. You're not the person I knew. Correct. You're not. The person they knew was the unboundaried version who said yes to preserve peace, who accommodated to avoid conflict, who dimmed their light to make others comfortable. The person you are becoming says no with ease, without explanation, without apology. Not from cruelty, but from clarity. You have finite energy, finite time, finite life force. Every yes to someone else's agenda is a no to your own calling. And your calling, whether you fully understand it yet or not, is too important for casual yeses. Practice saying no in front of the mirror if you must. Let it become comfortable in your mouth. No, that doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. Full sentences, no justifications. The herd expects you to defend your no, to provide reasons they can then argue with. But you owe them nothing. Your no is complete in itself. It is the period at the end of the sentence, not the opening of a negotiation. Watch what happens as you wield this weapon with increasing confidence. Some people will rage. Good, they're revealing that they only valued you for your compliance. Some will disappear. Better, they were obstacles disguised as companions. And some, the rare ones, will respect you more. These are your true people. They were waiting for you to become someone worthy of their own depth. The fourth weapon, amor fati, the radical embrace. This is the master weapon, the one that transforms every other tool from defensive to generative. It's the ability to look at everything that happened to you, every betrayal, every disappointment, every closed door, every lonely night, and say, I would not change a single moment, not because it was pleasant, but because it was necessary to forge who I am. This is not toxic positivity. This is not pretending that pain wasn't painful or that cruelty wasn't cruel. This is the recognition that everything, even and especially the worst things, conspired to create the specific configuration of your current being. If you had been spared even one trial, you would lack some crucial capacity, some essential knowledge, some vital strength. The devil expected you to spend your life in resentment, running from your past, trying to rewrite your story into something more palatable. But amor fati is the opposite. It is the embrace that says, this is my life, these are my scars, and I wear them not with shame, but with savage pride. Because they are the evidence of my survival, my growth, my overcoming. When you achieve this, when you can look at your worst moments and feel not regret but a strange gratitude, you become unbreakable. Because nothing can be used against you anymore. All your weaknesses have been integrated. All your wounds have been alchemized into wisdom. You are no longer running from your past. You are running with it, using its momentum to propel you forward. This is what made God laugh. The moment you stopped asking, why did this happen to me? And started asking, what did this make possible in me? That shift from victim consciousness to artist consciousness is the shift from slave to master. The slave is acted upon. The master acts even in responding to what they did not choose. The slave says, life happened to me. The master says, I happened to life, and life happened to respond. Practice this daily. When old memories surface, and they will, don't push them away. Face them, examine them, ask, what did this teach me? How did this strengthen me? Who would I be without this experience? You'll find, to your surprise, that you don't want to erase your past. You want to honor it by living in a way that justifies the suffering, that makes it worth it. The fifth weapon, the practice of eternal recurrence. Nietzsche's ultimate test, would you live this exact life again? Every moment, every pain, every triumph, every failure, infinite times? If that thought fills you with dread, you are still living incorrectly. If that thought fills you with fierce joy, you have arrived. This is not a literal belief. It is a psychological technology. Use it as a filter for decision-making. Before you act, before you speak, before you commit to anything, ask, if I had to repeat this choice infinite times, would I? If the answer is no, don't do it. If the answer is yes, proceed with absolute conviction. This eliminates all half measures, all compromises made from fear, all choices that diminish you. You will live each moment as if it were eternal, because in a profound sense it is. It becomes part of the permanent record of what you were, what you chose, what you valued. The mediocre live carelessly because they think each moment disappears into the void. You will live with precision because you understand that every moment is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. How many truths can you bear to hear right now, chosen one? We are only halfway through this revelation. Rest your mind briefly, but do not stop. The most dangerous insights are still ahead. The apocalypse of false selves. How you died and were reborn. The season you called your dark night was, in genealogical terms, an apocalypse, not in the colloquial sense of destruction, but in its original meaning, an unveiling. The veils were torn, the masks cracked, and what was revealed beneath the surface of your carefully constructed life was this. Almost everything was false. This revelation breaks most people. To discover that your identity is a performance, your relationships are transactions, your beliefs are inherited rather than chosen, your ambitions are borrowed from people who never achieved them. This knowledge is acid. It dissolves the very ground you thought you were standing on. The herd, when they catch a glimpse of this truth, immediately reaches for anesthetic. More work, more distraction, more consumption, more noise. Anything to avoid sitting with the vertigo of meaninglessness. But you sat in it. You didn't have a choice at first. The collapse was too complete for superficial solutions. But then, something remarkable happened. You stopped trying to rebuild the false self. That thing that collapsed, you let it stay dead. This is crucial. Most people, after a breakdown, rush to reconstruct the same flawed building. They miss the opportunity. They waste the crisis. You didn't. Whether from exhaustion or intuition, you let the old identity decompose. You didn't try to be yourself again because you began to suspect that yourself was a fiction maintained for others' comfort. In that space of not knowing, of not being, something authentic finally had room to emerge. Not the self you thought you should be, not the self others needed you to be, but the self that is, the one underneath all the performance. This process looked like death from the outside. People who knew you worried. "You're not yourself," they said, and they meant it as concern. But they were right in ways they couldn't understand. You weren't yourself. You were becoming more than yourself, the self they knew was.